And joining me now is Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. Senator Kelly, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you for having me on, Kristen.
Thank you. It is a monumental Sunday. Thank you for being on, Senator Kelly. We really appreciate it. Let me start with what you just heard from Senator Lindsey Graham. You heard him argue the world is now safer because the supreme leader of Iran is dead. Do you agree with him? Is the world now safer, Senator?
Well, I agree with that part. I mean, it's a good thing that the supreme leader is gone and some of the folks around him. And I have to give a shout out to the young men and women of the U.S. military who, by their skill and, focus on the mission and determination and patriotism, were able to conduct this operation. So that part's a good thing. But what I also heard from Lindsey, and we saw in the president's tweet earlier today, is they're talking about hope. The president said, hopefully. Lindsey a number of times said, we hope. Hope is not a strategy. We got to have a plan here. I mean, what is the strategic goal and how do we achieve it? And my job here in the United States Senate is to make sure that this administration, has a plan and doesn't put Americans, especially U.S. service members, at further risk.
Well, and you, of course, flew combat missions during the Gulf War. Broadly speaking, do you support this military operation?
Well, I want to see a strategy. And I mean, broadly, no. Again, Khamenei being dead is a good thing. But what is this about? I mean, the president said the Iranian nuclear capability was obliterated last summer. So is this about that, or is it about ballistic missiles? Lindsey talked about ballistic missiles being able to range the United States, reach the continental United States. They don't have that capability now. He was not implying that, but they're trying to achieve it, which is true, but that's going to take a long time. So what was the imminent threat? Or is this about, getting rid of the entire regime, which is really challenging? There's not an armed opposition in Iran. My concern here, going forward, is what happens now. We saw in Iraq that in 2006, Saddam Hussein was finally killed. And then over more than a decade, we lost 1,500 Americans. I don't want to see a wide conflict in the Middle East.
Well, Senator Lindsey Graham says that it is possible to carry out this military operation without putting U.S. boots on the ground. The president has said that. Do you accept that? Do you think it is possible to continue with this military operation without putting U.S. boots on the ground, Senator?
That is incredibly challenging. I mean, for somebody, myself, I've, used air power in defense of this country. I flew 39 combat missions. We could take out targets. You could destroy a building. You could even, based on what happened, previously, you could, this summer, you can even hit underground targets, but eliminating things and fully taking out a capability is really challenging without putting people there on the ground.
Well, let me ask you, because as you think about how long this military operation might be, President Trump effectively said, look, it's going to last at least the week. Ahead of the strikes, Vice President J.D. Vance said, quote, there is no chance the U.S. will be drawn into a prolonged war with Iran. Do you accept that, or do you think it's possible that this could become a prolonged military engagement, Senator?
Well, absolutely it could be, and that's the concern here, and that's why we need to get back in Washington and have a discussion with the White House on this and have a vote. Hey, you got the president and the vice president saying things that are 180 degrees out, right? In one hand, not going to be prolonged, and the other, it could be a drawn-out conflict. Which one is it? And what is your plan going forward? And by the way, Kristen, I mean, if the Iranians decide to shut down the Straits of Hormuz, what is the plan there? Because you're going to put a huge number of service members at risk. And on the other side, if you don't do something about it, we could wind up with a significant economic hit to the worldwide economy. So these are complicated scenarios and complicated decisions. And I think this administration, my sense is that they did not go into this with any kind of strategic plan. It was an operation with no discussion about what comes next.
Let me ask you, speaking of the plan and the reaction from Capitol Hill, this is what Democratic Senator Jackie Rosen had to say about the strikes on Saturday. I'm going to read it to you, get your reaction on the other side. She says Iran can never be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. Iran's support for ballistic missiles and terrorist proxies are some of the leading national security threats to the U.S., Israel, and the region. Now, she does believe Congress should authorize any military action, but do you agree with her central point, which is that Iran's military program and nuclear program did, in fact, pose a threat to the United States?
It has posed a threat, and we can't allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. But you got to remember, this president tore up the Iran deal in his first administration. And they were not close to what we call breakout capability with the enrichment of uranium. They weren't that close to getting a weapon. After that was torn up, they went further. There was some damage done this past summer. It wasn't obliterated. We have a lot of information about where their programs are. This week, Iran was not an imminent threat to the homeland. Again, I'm going to reiterate. Khamenei being dead is a very positive thing for the region. But we have a lot of service members there, a lot of equities. We've got embassies all over the place. They have a large terrorist network. They've got the Houthis and Hamas that are, in the region, Hezbollah. There are options that the Iranian regime, whoever comes next, has to target U.S. citizens.
Two more quick critical questions for you. If there is a war powers vote, Senator, will you be a yes?
Well, I'm going to have to take a close look at it. I want to hear from the White House what their strategy is going forward. I would say at this point it's rather unlikely that I would be. They went into this without any discussion with us ahead of time. And by the way, why on Tuesday, during the State of the Union, didn't the president make a case to the American people on why he is going to conduct an attack on Iran?
And then just finally, Secretary Hegseth has had you in his crosshairs. He's targeted you and other lawmakers. He tried to downgrade your military ranking. That was blocked by a judge. Do you have confidence in Pete Hegseth's leadership to lead this war?
Well, I didn't vote for him, and I have previously said, and I maintain, that he's the least qualified Secretary of Defense we've ever had in our country's history. So no, I don't think he is the person to be leading this, but he is who Donald Trump chose to be Secretary of Defense. So he's unless he's fired, he's going to remain in that job. So yeah, sure, that concerns me.
All right. Senator Mark Kelly, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.